Hello and welcome to the Magic Mirror podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Khan the Trinket Mage, and with me is my co-host, 33 Elk.
Hello.
Additionally, we have our other co-host, Salubrious Snail.
Hello, hello.
Today's episode is going to be pretty fun. We've all brought a couple of cards that we think people are using wrong or not using in the right deck. Things that are cards that are powerful, but we think really need the right home, and we want to talk about what that home is and how to utilize them. And then at the end, we'll get to some questions from you, the audience. I literally just had a conversation with Yusuf about I'll try not to reframe sentences over and over again so he doesn't have to cut out as much stuff, and I just completely messed it up at the start. Yusuf, you can leave that in. But before we get into all of that, we want to tell you about our sponsor, Laughing Dragon. Next week, guys, because we're recording this on the 17th. So after this podcast comes out, 1 week later, the weekend of the 27th is LDXP Tacoma. If you don't have your tickets yet, you should go sign up for it. Link below. It's a huge, fun Magic event that has other games as well, like Riftbound, Lorcana, Flesh and Blood, Warhammer, lots of stuff. All three of us are going to be there hanging out in Seattle. We're going to be playing Commander and probably some sealed events and doing all sorts of fun things at that event. Hopefully, we'll see you there as well, which I guess this means maybe next week's podcast might be delayed because we'll be traveling to this event. But hopefully, we'll see you all there. I'm really excited, so it'll be a lot of fun.
Also, this is LDXP Tacoma, so if we're in Seattle, something will have gone wrong.
You're correct. I guess it's Tacoma, not Seattle. I said Seattle because I feel like a lot of people don't know where Tacoma is. Right, you live in the area, so you know where Tacoma is.
Yeah.
I went to school there. I know where Tacoma is. But before I moved there, I wouldn't know what the hell Tacoma was. But if somebody says Seattle, it's like, oh, okay, that's like a major city. As somebody who lives in the States, I vaguely know where Seattle is.
Wait, Con, you willingly moved back to California?
No, I didn't move back to California. I was from Virginia.
So you started in Virginia, you went to Seattle, and then you're like, I'm going to go to California next.
Yeah, because I went here for my master's. I went to San Diego for school.
Oh, and you stayed there? Sorry, I'm from California. I've learned to hate it.
I don't hate California. I honestly think most California hate is pretty overblown online. We're already off topic, which is fine.
Yeah, I agree that most California hate is overblown. However, gas is $5 trillion per gallon. It's insane.
We don't commute.
I know.
We work from home.
I know, but still, it affects other things.
But also it's hard for my girlfriend to move because she's barred in California. As a lawyer,
your
right?
Girlfriend's a lawyer.
Oh, yeah, that'll do it.
There is a quote unquote universal bar that 15, 20 states or whatever use. But if we were to move, she would have to take the whole bar again, unless it's federal law, which is different. There's asterisks to all of these things that I'm saying about the law, obviously.
Everything immediately makes a million times more sense now.
Yeah, so it's way harder to move if you're doing stuff like that. I'll go, of course you could work remotely or something. So
I don't know if I told you guys, but my hometown of Indio, the Coachella Valley, it had a record high temperature in February. It was 100 and something degrees. I think it was 100 flat for February.
That's too many degrees for
Anyway.
Yeah, I don't like the heat, but I'm in Orange County now, and near Santa Ana and stuff.
Yeah,
all those places,
it's
they're
gorgeous.
Nice.
No, the desert is beautiful.
Yeah, it's pretty chill.
Absolutely. California's one of the most beautiful states, I think. Personally, my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I think I prefer Seattle weather just because I like the cold and the rain, to be honest.
Yeah, same.
But I don't know. I don't mind it here. I've lived in a lot of different places. I've moved a lot. And California is not the worst place I've lived in.
Yeah, imagine being able to just go out and be decently warm in March or February. It's probably really nice.
Yeah, my dad lived in Chicago for a bit, and holy cow, the winters are oh my goodness, when it's -5 degrees out and there's a negative 15 degree wind chill, it's abysmal. You can't do anything. It's awful.
That does not sound pleasant.
Yeah, I don't really like Chicago very much as a city either. I don't know if that's a hot take, but Chicago is kind of a mid city.
No, I'm kind of there with you. Anyway, we should probably talk about Magic the Gathering cards, huh?
Before we get to the main topic, I wanted to vent about something that I'm just so mad about. Is I missed the product I wanted the most for the entire year.
Dan.
The Dan Secret Lair. I'm so absolutely just peeved at this thing that they made 12 of them, I guess. It sold out in 20 minutes, and Dandan is this really fun, cool community format. I have my own mono green Dandan list. A good buddy of mine has a mono red one that's super cool. Like Dandan's one of my favorite formats. I love it so much. And I was literally at the doctor's office. And then by the time I went in and came out, it was gone and I just missed it. And then it's being sold on eBay because it was $100 initially, being sold on eBay for like $250 or something. And it's actually selling at that price. So like, it was designed intentionally to be for scalpers. Like it's not like a pre-con that's meant to sit on shelves and be for people to buy when it really should have been. I hate that so much. Like it's so annoying.
Yeah, this is like an especially like a thing that should have been print to order, in my opinion, where it's like the creator would have gotten so much money more too. Because I think they finally decided to cut him in after the community whipped them enough, right?
Yeah, they worked with him in some capacity.
I'm pretty sure Gavin Verhey had to get on his hands and knees before the fucking Hasbro CEO and go, please, oh please, let us cut him in.
The problem is with Blue Dandan specifically, is the actual card Dandan is hard-ish to get your hands on because it hasn't been reprinted in a long time. So a lot of stores just won't have one. Now everything else in the deck is easy to acquire. You can get Brainstorms and Ponders or Predicts or whatever. Obviously you can proxy it, but it's like, I don't know, the 5th edition one is still $2 if you can find any of those lying around. And if those are out of stock, which there's not that many of them, the Times Power one's like $8 a piece, which suddenly makes, this very budget format like not super budget.
Yeah,
very frustrating. I hate that so much. Just wanted to talk about it real quick.
Also, I had never noticed that they actually keyworded the island ability
it's island home
for the 5th edition one. That's crazy.
I think there's a swamp home card, right?
Okay. I believe it. Yeah.
Or maybe there isn't. Maybe I'm
fascinating.
Just dumb. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I thought there was. Should we get on to our main topic?
Absolutely.
All right.
Let's do it.
So first card I want to talk about is a card I picked up recently because I just drafted Dark Ascension, which was super awesome, by the way. I don't know what people are talking about whenever I mention blocks, people are like, oh, the second and third blocks suck. They have bad limited environments. A complete BS. Dark Ascension was so sweet to draft. But one card that I think was really fun is Chalice of Life. Now, Chalice of Life is not a particularly good Magic the Gathering card. It is 3 generic for an artifact. You tap to gain 1 life. Then if you have at least 10 life more than your starting life total, it transforms. And it transforms into Chalice of Death, which taps to make target player lose 5 life. So when you look at this on like, I don't know, EDH rack, it's all full of life gain commanders, right? It'll be like Dina Soul Steeper and Karlov Ghost Council and Shieldred the Apocalypse for some reason. Now, if you have a commander like Karlov that cares about individual instances of life gaining, I suppose this is once per turn you gain that until it flips, in which case it doesn't. I feel like people are kind of putting it in the wrong deck because this isn't actually particularly good in life gain decks, especially because it's going to flip and then you stop losing. You lose the synergy. I'm playing it in an artifact deck with cards like Clock of Omens and Unwinding Clock. And the goal is to just tap it multiple times and untap it multiple times to quickly gain up the life, flip it, and then it does a ton of damage with a Unwinding Clock in play. It's 20 damage a turn cycle with just that.
That seems pretty good, and I agree. That seems like a better use case. The thing I'm curious about is, does that deck, or does whatever deck you have it in, have other life gain, or is it just that? Are you just relying on getting like 10 taps with it?
So one of the other game plans for this is to use the Dawnsire's Sunstar Dreadnought to crew it or station it, and then give it lifelink with Venser Corpse Puppet to gain 100 life.
Yeah, because that's cool.
There's that, and then there's Wormcoil Engine, and that's kind of it for life gain. This deck does gum up the board very quickly, so it kind of blocks a lot. I do understand the point you're getting at that I might not be able to flip it.
Okay, because I'm looking at the other life gain in the deck. I see Inventor's Fair, and I see Scheming Aspirant in the Proliferate category, which your categorization makes me deeply sad, Con, because that card does not proliferate. That's a payoff card.
Those are automatic. Those are automatic categories.
Oh, those are automatic?
I don't use categories.
Oh,
I'm not an architecture like you. I like having it organized by type and alphabet, and everybody on my streams always like yells at me for this. They're like, why don't you use categories? Because if I want to know if the card confirms suspicions is in my deck, I know it is an instant. And and I know it starts with the letter C, so I can find it. I know it is a counterspell, so I know it goes in the whatever counterspell categories. I don't need that sorted out for me.
Okay, I get not like organizing by type or whatever, by like, archetype of the card. I do that too. I only look at the cards based on like what their actual card type is. But not sorting by mana value is where you're losing me here. This is insane.
No, if I know the name of the card, then I'll sort by alphabet. I do switch between alphabet and mana value sometimes, but I usually do alphabet. If I know the name of the card, it's easier to find.
Well, Confirmed Suspicions is a 5-drop, so just look at the 5-drop area.
Well, no, I know it starts with the letter C.
I think what you're describing works if you have gotten extremely used to doing it alphabetically. And if you've just done that a lot, for somebody who is just getting into deck building, just go with mana value or categorize
By
your
the
deck.
way, this deck heavily reminds me of doing like silly shenanigans with cursed recording, where you can like tap and untap cursed recording repeatedly with the help of artifact untappers, and then you just cast like a spell and copy it 500,000 times.
Yeah, this deck it's called Fidget Toy because I'm just like twiddling around with artifacts. And I'm just like tapping and untapping things a bunch. And one of those things is Chalice of Life, which will eventually become Chalice of Death.
I actually didn't notice that your commander has.
Yeah. So
lifelink,
I just
that
have
makes a lot
to,
more
once
sense
I
now.
animate the Dawn Sire, I just have to proliferate once to give it lifelink. And it doesn't even need to connect. It just has to attack, or anything has to attack, and it deals 100 damage. So I can gain 100 life, and then this is my win con after that. Well, I don't know if it's that good, but it is something.
Am I crazy to think that like Sidri might be better for this?
You're not.
Okay. glad we cleared that up.
Sidri, there's no foil version of Sidri, and I like having a foil commander.
Okay.
That's like a really stupid stipulation. And then also, I think Venser is funnier with like Throne of Geth, because you just sack the hollow one to Throne of Geth to make a new one and proliferate.
Yeah.
It doesn't even proliferate anything good, to be honest. I'm just putting counters on like spaceships.
You should like bare minimum run like Astral Cornucopia, I feel, right?
Hell yeah, buddy.
Nah, I feel like that'd be good.
Okay, great. Okay, great.
No, you're following our method for keeping your deck more casual, more chill. You gotta make your payoffs ass.
This is very bracket 2. Like, there's not even Lux Cannon in here. Like, I have all the best engines. I have the best tutors and I guess minus demonic tutor. I have like the best artifact tutors to like find Clock of Omens and do all this stuff. But I am literally just putting counters on Synthesizer Lab Ship.
Man, I feel like Lux Cannon is so bracket 2 friendly, even with a bunch of proliferate and Clock.
I have
bullshit.
Executioner's
It's not
Capsule
a
and
card.
Salvaging Station in here, and that's my removal engine.
That's
It's
better
more
than a
mana
Lux
intensive.
Cannon.
I think it's way easier to have Lux Cannon just like with Clock of Omens, just blow up anything, because this is just Doom Blades. Lux Cannon destroys anything, right?
Yeah, it does for sure. You definitely get better flexibility out of it.
Yeah, instead of Lux Cannon, I'm running Meteor Golem
I
and
get
Extinguisher Battleship, which I think is fair.
Extinguisher Battleship's so badass. That card's so cool.
I love it.
It's an okay card.
All right, that was my first one. Elk, do you want to give your first card?
Okay, everyone already knows about Parting Gust, right? Parting Gust is like the new heat. People are cutting like literally swords to plowshares for Parting Gust in some decks, right?
It's a very good card.
Yeah, the one extra mana is actually super worth the flexibility of the card, where it's like I can use it as a protection spell on my big thing, or I can remove your thing. People are fucking sleeping on Werefox Bodyguard, though. Let me tell you what. Werefox Bodyguard is legitimately kind of the same idea. It's 3 mana. It exiles a creature when it enters, right? So you can flash this in, and you can exile your giant like reanimator target that you reanimated as a protection spell, or you can exile their thing. And where Werefox Bodyguard gets way more gross is when you're running it in a deck with like Elishnorn Mother of Machines, Starfield Vocalist, or Panharmonicon, right? You can like hit 2 things or exile 2 things. Just like in this world of Farewell, where it's now game changer, we don't have to worry about it as much anymore, right? But still, just like having like a protection piece that gets through Farewell is really cool. And the fact that it's on an ETB is really cool. The fact that it's on a creature, also really cool, right? Like you can recruit to the guard this thing. The fact that it sacrifices itself, you can just use it as a 5 mana flicker. It's an installment of 3 and then 2. I've used it in that case before, though. I don't know. There's just a lot to like about this card in its flexibility, and it's always played really well.
It's super flexible. And I also, another thing about the final ability that's super nice is that it has less of the problem than other Fiend Hunters of, oh, you play this, you exile an opponent's threat, a board wipe gets played, suddenly they have their threat back. With this, you at least, if you could save 2 mana, have that off valve where you can sacrifice it, get that thing back into play, let it get board wiped. So you avoid that a little bit.
Yeah, I that's a really good point. It does feel like I don't know, this kind of interaction I feel like is so good in a lot of creature focused decks. That's why, like these days, there's no excuse to not have interaction no matter what your deck is. You don't have to be full of instants and sorceries. You can actually play creatures for it. And this is like one of the best ones. It's honestly not in that many decks. Like
which I find absurd because the card legitimately feels very nice to cast. I don't know if I've ever drawn Werefox Bodyguard and go, oh, like there's always like a target for it, or there's always like a thing I haven't played that like is worth holding up the protection for. And then the great news is if you don't have to protect your thing that turn cycle, you can just still tempo it out if that's the good play. Because flashing in a Fiend Hunter is just good.
Yeah. Yeah, I see only on EDH Rec only a 5% inclusion in Voja decks. And honestly, I mean, it counts as an elf. It is an elf Fox Knight somehow. So I don't know how it's an elf, but it is.
All the Werefoxes of Eldraine are elves. That's the reason why.
Interesting.
Okay.
I definitely should be higher than 5% inclusion in Voja.
I remember there's a tweet about this card that was like, I bet most of you could not tell me this card's type line if you didn't look.
I would not have guessed elf in like 1,000 years. I think I'm guessing ooze before elf. Like this does.
I'd be 1 for 3 on the types, I'm pretty sure.
You would get fox. No way.
No, that's the one that he would get.
Oh.
The knight.
I would get fox. I don't know that I would get knight.
Yeah, come on. It's an elf fox knight, guys. Can't you see? It's obvious.
Obviously.
Yeah.
You can tell by the ears.
Once again, also, if you are running Elishnorn Mother of Machines, please, for the love of God, put this in your deck. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's unreal.
Also really good in Ketramos.
True. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. It's just a very flexible card for sure. All right, you ready for mine?
Yeah.
I'm going to say backgrounds in general, and I will use Far Traveler in specific as my choice here. So backgrounds are ones where you can there will be a bunch of D&D commanders where they say choose a background, and then you get this as kind of your partner commander. And what these do is they are enchantments that give abilities to your commanders. And so Far Traveler reads, commanders creatures you control have at the beginning of your end step, exile up to 1 target tapped creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. These are interesting because I think they're pretty solid when you have a choose a background commander, but they are better if you have other partner commanders because you get 2 commanders to apply the thing to. And I think you see this especially with some of the stronger ones. Like I want to say Guild Artisan has literally seen CEDH play in a bunch of Rogue Rack decks because being able to have both your commanders, like a Rogue Rack and something else, create 2 treasure tokens a turn is just crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy with partners because it affects both of them.
Yeah.
My personal favorite's Raised by Giants. Just both of your partner commanders are 10/10s now, base power and toughness.
No, that one's funny. Candlekeep Sage, which draws you cards from your commander, enters or leaves, I think can also go kind of crazy when you have 2 different commanders.
Oh yeah, I put that in I had an OG deck.
Oh, I'm running one in that Venser deck that I showed you. I'm running Clancrafter.
Yeah.
Nice. But yeah, these are super cool. I think it's interesting because the way they're used now is I think a lot of people tend to assume that they are pretty solid in general when they're really just they're not great if you have 1 single commander, I think. So like I remember I used the example of Acolyte of Bahamut being played in dragon decks. I don't think you want that in the 99 of anything but a Corlessa deck, just because Corlessa is like a kind of low cost, low impact dragon commander in green. Whereas if you have any sort of higher cost dragon commander, this won't act as ramp. This will come online after your commander comes out and then stay kind of tied to them. And I think the same goes for something like Passionate Archaeologist. Obviously, that's a pretty solid card. Lets you deal a bunch of damage if your opponents if you are casting spells from exile, but it's still tied to your commander. So if you have some better thing going on with your commander that your opponents would want to remove anyway, then this is just going to be a recipe to get 2 for 1. So these are tricky. I think they are very frequently useful when you have 2 commanders out, and they can definitely be solid and choose a background, but not in some others.
For me, it's like, it's kind of a tough sell for Prosper in my mind, where like Prosper's a 4-mana commander that I wanted like blow up and already. And then the fact that your Passionate Archaeologist basically goes with it, and then you have to pay 6 to get it back. That is insane. Something like Pia Nalar, I'm like a lot more game for because Pia's 2 mana.
Oh yeah.
2 mana cast from Exile Commander. That feels really good to have a Passionate Archaeologist in it. I think my friend Christian runs it in Maelstrom Wanderer, which is actually a really good home for it because you can hit it with one of the Cascades and then it doesn't matter because you cascade into another thing and immediately get value from it.
Yeah, I think Maelstrom Wanderer is a great example because that's one where your opponents actually don't have a reason to remove your commander. If anything, they probably have a reason not to.
Yeah.
So adding in a card that adds an ability to your commander probably feels pretty good there.
That's why I'm running, like, this is the only background I've ever run in any deck outside the command zone is this Venser one, because Venser is so low impact and also 2 mana. It's not like a magnet for removal, so I can actually get use out of the background. I feel like I do agree with you, Alex, that a lot of people will sometimes play a background in a deck where they have like a commander that is a must kill, and then the background's just a dead card.
Yeah, I run a background in a deck like this, kind of. It's in my Sephara deck. I run Duelist Heritage and Flaming Fist in this deck, and the joke is that Flaming Fist is sometimes better than Duelist Heritage because sometimes Sephara gets Lightning Greaved, and then I can't target her anymore.
Oh.
So the fact that it just innately gives my commander double strike is really good. And Sephara is a removal magnet, but it's a removal magnet that the entire deck is built around protecting.
Yes. It's not like Prosper, where like a lot of people just put Prosper in the command zone because they're like, oh, it's good. And then it just dies. And they're like, well, what do I do with these backgrounds?
Yeah.
Yeah. I find it interesting there haven't been more backgrounds that had some sort of like protective ability to them. Or like haste. I could imagine there being a background that was like commander creatures you control get +1/+0, have haste, and must attack each turn if able. I could imagine that being a background, but that isn't really one. Nor is there one that gives ward aside from like ward pay 3 life on Cultists of the Absolute.
Yeah.
Basically, all of them seem to be encouraging you to keep your commander sticking around.
I hope we get Baldur's Gate too. Honest to God, Baldur's Gate was a really good set.
I know.
I think it's funny that if you do have the background in your command zone, you can animate it.
Yeah.
And it is your commander.
Yeah, that's cool.
So then it works on itself. And it does deal commander damage, which is funny.
You can, yeah. There are also cards that will refer to things you've done with your commanders, and usually those cards assume that your commander's a creature, but if it's an enchantment, sometimes things get a little weird. And then yes, you can deal commander damage with it if you animate it.
It is crazy though that Partner is so broken that they're just better with backgrounds.
Yeah.
Like Flaming Fist is really good if you're playing Akiri, something else.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about something like Tavern Brawler, I feel like you don't want that in the 99 of basically any deck with a single commander, but with 2 commanders, that's a lot of value potentially and beats.
All right, Con, what's your next one?
All right, my next one is Tectonic Reformation. Tectonic Reformation is red and 1 for an enchantment. It has cycling for 2 generic. And then it also says each land in your hand has cycling for 1 red. And I see this in like a couple of places. It's either in a cycling deck where you trigger things off of cycling or discarding or whatever, or it's in some sort of land deck where you want lands in the bin. And I think that those are fine places to play it. But I feel like I don't see this card enough in just like mono red decks, because turning every single land in your hand into a cantrip is something that red doesn't normally have access to, like a lot of cantrips, and especially a lot of cantrips at this opportunity cost. Like if you're playing Zada, sure, your deck is probably full of cantrips, but like if you're not, it's kind of nice to be able to be like, I drew an extra mountain, I don't need it. Let's just ditch this, grab a new one. And I kind of just like it in like random low color decks.
For me, the first thing I think about whenever I say Tectonic Reformation is like, oh, if I get Abundance in play and Surly Badgersaur, I can entomb all my lands. That's my first thought.
Yeah. I mean, I am playing it in a lands deck is what I'm currently using it for. So like I'm here for the abundance, life from the loam. Like I think that's all awesome. But I just think, I don't know, if you're in some sort of like red mid-rangey kind of deck, it's really nice to be able to just ditch a couple of lands and like draw a few extra things, even without synergy.
Like the fact that this has cycling definitely makes it a lot easier to just kind of run it as a tacked on thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually do not like this card or Ret 2 Mystic very much in dedicated cycling decks, just because I think you're probably better off being more consistent, running a bunch of cycling cards all on your own.
So what was the other card you mentioned?
Ret 2 Mystic, the one that gives creatures cycling. I think you have that in a deck that wants to get creatures into the graveyard, that wants to filter a bunch. I think that's great, but I don't particularly dig it in dedicated cycling decks, just because I think you can already run a bunch of cycling lands or a bunch of cycling creatures, and that's probably a better way to go than assembling multi-card engines. But yeah, this seems pretty sweet. I think I probably wouldn't run it in a deck that had like no graveyard stuff or no discard stuff, but I think you only need a little bit to get this feeling pretty tempting. Maybe just like, some delve stuff, some escape stuff, just something like that cares about the number of cards in graveyard.
Yeah, if you're just running like a casual Underworld Breach for value in your mono red deck, like it's not a combo piece, but you're just like using it as recursion, then this card like goes way up in value.
Yeah, or even like a Bloodbraid Challenger.
Yeah,
a
Croxa,
all that jazz. Ox of Agonis, my god, that card has such an expensive escape cost on it that exile 8 other cards.
I love Ox of Agonis. I'm running it in a list right now.
But if you have something like this, that gets a lot easier.
I remember when you used to play Ox of Agonis in Standard because there's the mill rogue deck going around. So you just like incidentally mill over the Ox of Agonis and then just like go, oh, okay, great. You also milled over 8 cards. I turn off all of your rogues and draw a new hand. It was really good. If you want my honest opinion about like what an underplayed mono red card is, it's not Tectonic Reformation, it's Squee, Goblin Nabob. Squee is killer. The fact that you can just use it to the discard spells and then just get the Squee back, you get 1 free discard spell a turn without having to actually discard. Insane.
So I brewed around with Lorehold Historian, and I didn't put Squee in because it's on your upkeep, and it's just like I have so many other graveyard synergies. I don't know. I think Squee's just been like there's too much good stuff for the graveyard now. I don't think you need Squee anymore.
Yeah, I think you need to be really locked in on that plan to actually want it that bad.
I'm just saying, like for mono red, like if you're like oops all like looting effects or rummage effects.
Yeah, because there's a good chance you're playing like big score, unexpected windfall, all those things, right?
Yeah, I'm just a big fan of Squee in general. He's funny.
Oh, me too. I love Squee. I should find a space for it in my deck. I don't know. I just don't know what to cut. All right, that was my second one. How about you, El?
All right, so I have a really good card, Grim Servant, right? Modern Horizons 3 card, 3 and a black, 3/2 menace. When it enters the battlefield, search your library for a card with mana value less than or equal to your devotion to black, reveal it, put in your hand, then shuffle, you lose 3 life.
Okay.
This card's very good, but people are kind of shy to run it outside of like mono black or like heavy black devotion decks. People don't realize that Grim Servant just gives you 1 black pip for free. So for me, one of my favorite homes for it is Reanimator, which has this critical mass of 1-cost spells that you really care about. So think about Phyrexian Delver, right? You're thinking of a good card, right? Like Phyrexian Delver's good. 5 mana reanimate something on a 3/2 body.
Yeah.
Thumbs up. We like it. We like it.
Yusuf put a thumbs up on screen.
What about Violent Tumor, right? Violent Tumor is a perfectly fine card. You get to entomb, you get a 2/2 Death Toucher, right? Thumbs up. We like this card, right? Grim Servant is both of those cards. It's Violent Tumor because you can get entomb with it even without any other devotion to black. And it's also Phyrexian Delver because it can go and get reanimate. And yet every time I see a Reanimator deck, they're not running this card. Even though they are running Phyrexian Delver or they are running Violent Tumor. Even though this is a 2-for-1 because it can get either of the 1-drop spells that they're related to, you know?
That's interesting. I feel like I would expect Grim Servant to be pretty highly played.
Yeah.
It is highly played. It's just not in Reanimator decks from what I've seen.
Exactly. Like when I'm looking at it on EDH Track, it's like Crick plays it, Wilhilt and Henzi, I guess, kind of play it, but those are often can like lean heavily black. And then outside of that, it's mostly mono black lists. But you're totally right. You know, tutoring up a 1 mana value thing is still pretty good.
It's in 0.8% of decks, which isn't nothing, but that's also not very high. Like, I feel like a lot more decks than that would want this, right?
Yeah, I have a Reanimator deck, my white-black like life manipulation Reanimator deck, and Grim Servant is stupid in it. It is so strong. It literally refills every role Reanimator needs. And Reanimators, believe it or not, despite its explosive potential, Reanimator is a very fragile archetype. And having a piece of glue like this that is just multiple pieces in one, God forbid you have your white-black and you get Ephemerate, right? That's losing 9 life, but you're still like cheating out something into play. It is significantly like, I think, a very overlooked option for Reanimator decks.
Like when you think about it, it's functionally like just a trinket mage, right? Because by itself, it searches up anything that costs 1 or less.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to get artifacts, but it can get anything that Trinket Mage can get.
Yeah.
Like on its face.
If you're running a Dimir deck and Trinket Mage is a good card in your deck, like a Dimir artifact deck with like little weenie artifacts, even if Grim Servant was your only black card, it would still be playable.
That's very true. And it's, you know, even more, I know it's 1 more mana, but you get that extra flexibility. If you have like offer you can't refuse or something, that's like a pretty good thing to tutor up. You don't need that many cards for it to be useful, right?
You literally just reminded me. Sometimes you can't entomb for the big thing because it's in your hand. You go and get Bone Shards. It's a 1 black mana sorcery that lets you sacrifice a creature or discard a card to destroy target creature. And then you discard the big thing in your hand, right? So there's like so many different use cases for Grim Servant. It's just kind of crazy. Like if you have impactful 1-drops in your deck, like Reanimator does, then Grim Servant is like just such a perfect card. Like, don't look at this as like a Grey Merchant of Asphodel. This is not a devotion card. It is, right? But it's more of a 1-drop Starfield Shepherd kind of card, in my opinion.
So I do agree that this should not be thought of as a devotion card. I think if your deck gets any amount of devotion, you can get this up to like even 2 or 3. I think it's awesome. I don't know that I would run this as the only black card. I feel like being 1 more mana than Trinket Mage is very significant. 4 mana for Tutor on a stick versus 3 is a very big difference. So
Well, I think Elk was being hyperbolic with that example, right?
Yeah, to be fair, yeah, no, I'm just saying that this card has use cases even outside of like mono black devotion.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Like
I'm not
if it was
jumping.
your only black card,
I'm just making sure we're not cooking too close to the sun here.
like if it was your only black card, it would be as useful as Trinket Mage is in your artifact deck.
I mean, no, it's a 4 mana card, not a 3 mana card.
Yeah, that's fair. You can't wizard cycle for it. I'd run the first step through.
I'm like 80% of the way there with you.
Yeah, I think I want to play this in my Venser deck now that I think about it. Because Venser is such a cheap commander, so I get the second devotion pretty easily. And I'm already running Trinket Mage. And then at 2 mana, it can grab Transmute Artifact or Copy Artifact, which is pretty great.
Yeah, if you can get up to 2, it's great. If you can get up to 3, it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, at 3, you're getting a War of Invention.
Other than that, it's just all gravy, I think.
You have not lived, in my opinion, until you have like Villas Broker of Blood out. You cast Grim Servant, you get Ephemerate, and then you just fucking draw 3 more cards. It's so funny. Anyway, yeah, I love Grim Servant.
That was a good one. I really like that one. I need a copy of it.
Grim Servant's a very sweet card. Okay, should I go into my second one?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, I am choosing Spell Shapers as a general category, and I am going to go with Waterfront Bouncer as my example here.
I love this card.
So, Waterfront Bouncer, this is actually, I believe, the originator of the term bounce. This is a 2 mana Merfolk Spell Shaper, 1/1 creature, blue, tap, discard a card, return target creature to its owner's hand. So this is it is a decent bounce engine, aside from the fact that you are putting yourself at a card disadvantage. But that is where I have to get to the sorts of decks that will want Spell Shapers, which is going to be decks that are perfectly fine shoving stuff into the graveyard. So this could be a deck with a bunch of madness in it. This could be a deck that just has like recursion of some form.
Hello, Reanimator, again.
This could be a deck that has like deep analysis and other stuff that can just turn stuff in graveyard into value pretty easily. But I think if you can make discard either a negligible thing or an active benefit, then I think these become very, very good. And just the sheer flexibility of having an engine that can bounce things kind of goes crazy. You can really tax your opponent's ability to keep a threat on board.
So since you mentioned, Spell Shapers as a concept, I guess we should elaborate on what that is. The Spell Shaper is a creature type, and all of the Spell Shapers, so Waterfront Bouncer as an example, have the ability to pay a mana tap, discard a card, and then cast a spell where the mana cost is the same as that spell. So in this case, Waterfront Bouncer casts Unsummon, which is 1 blue, return a creature to its owner's hand. So it spell shapes a card in your hand into that. There's one that does Dark Ritual.
Bog Witch.
Yeah, Bog Witch. There's one that does Fireball. There's like a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Dreamscape Artist is hilarious. It's like
It's a Harrow.
Harrow where they enter tap. Oh no,
They don't enter tap. It's just Harrow.
No, it's just Harrow.
It's from Planar Chaos, so they made it blue instead of green.
Yes.
The most recent Spell Shaper is on the back of that one battle, Invasion of Kylum or something. Or Regantha.
Oh.
There's a Spell Shaper recently, like actual type line Spell Shaper everything.
Really?
Because it was a throwback.
Invasion of Mercadia?
Yeah, Mercadia, because they were in masks originally, right?
Oh, yeah, they were.
So you have Chiron Flameright, which is a goblin Spell Shaper on the back of that battle. It's just like a funny little throwback.
Oh, create 2 1/1
Yeah.
blue and red elementals, creatures who get +1/+0 and hasten till end of turn. I don't know what spell it is referencing.
I don't think it is even referencing one.
Oh, boo. They should be referencing like actual
Right.
spells. What?
I agree. It should be like a Krankos command or something. That would be funny.
Yeah, it should just make 2 goblins. Wait, I have to check now. Creates 2 1/1 blue and red elemental tokens. This text has to appear somewhere else, right? I can just scryfall this.
The blue and red tokens are only made by cards in the set. It's the closest to Ral's Reinforcements, which is in the same set, but it doesn't give +1/+0 haste.
Oh, so it's not a real spell shaper. That's like
I know it's it is a real spell shaper, but it's a fake spell shaper.
yeah.
It's not shaping any specific spell.
Yeah, I love that the legendary spell shapers, you have to discard 2 cards.
Well, yeah, because the spells are better.
Yeah.
Wait, isn't one of them like Wrath of God?
Yeah, Wrath's everything but itself.
Yeah.
Maggot of the Lion.
And if you combine that with Jor-El, Empress of Beasts, where you discard 2 cards and turn all lands target player controls into 3/3s, that's 4 cards you have to discard and like 7 mana to activate on 2 5-drops. You can blow up all their lands.
That's cool.
We love blowing up all their lands on this podcast.
Yeah. There's one that casts Mind Twist, which is funny.
You also reminded me that I need to get a Waterfront bouncer for my 2-headed giant cube. You can bounce your teammate's fucking creature and then they can replay it.
I put Waterfront Bouncer in like a little micro cube I built, and that cube is okay, but it is a card that you can do all sorts of funny stuff with, and that's kind of the point of the cube, is to just include funny
Speaking of Squee, by the way.
I was about to say, Squee, Goblin above, this is where you put it with your Waterfront Bouncer.
True.
And it's a real engine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've definitely mentioned it on the podcast before, but my friend has a 5-color Spell Shaper deck, and he plays Squee in it and like cards like that, and like Genesis or whatever to like get stuff back, and you just discard things to your Spell Shapers and then get them back. It's really funny.
It's pretty sweet.
Squee's just so good. So is Master of Death. That one's also a Squee kind of card.
Master of Death. I don't think I've heard this one.
It's the blue-black one for Modern Horizons. You can pay 1 life to return it to your hand. Dredge used to play it. They still might play it, actually.
Oh, and when he enters, you surveil, right? Yeah. Weird.
All right. Khan, what's your next card? Your final card, even.
My final card. I have a really specific use case for this. My final card is Energy Bending, which is 2 generic for an instant lesson. Lands you control gain all basic land types until end of turn. Draw a card. I want to play it in my Ral CDH deck because the deck is like weirdly red focused, but sometimes you need like triple blue mid-storm turn, which is a very unique thing. But that's also not that relevant. All right, moving on to the Beseech the Mirror section. This is where you beseech us for answers. All you have to do is put mirror, mirror in your comment, and we'll get to it on the podcast. In fact, someone asked a mirror, mirror question and tagged me on Blue Sky, and that's how we picked the topic for this video. Thanks to Sylphic Blue Sky for giving us this, this topic idea. All right, mirror, mirror. I sacrifice a treasure to pay for demand answers. To ask, non-magic question, what is your favorite game console?
So we can't say PC. It has to be a game console.
Yeah, we'll exclude PC.
I was in love with my PS4, but I played only 1 game on it. I played Bloodborne, and then it turned into a Blu-ray player for the rest of its life after I beat Bloodborne.
That was my PS3 with Skyrim.
I'm going to go Nintendo GameCube because I have nostalgia for it, and I kind of became a PC gamer after I turned like 12.
I'm not gonna lie, DS is also like super cracked choice.
I was gonna say DS is like
never had one of those.
It's goated. The DS is so goated.
You can get like DS custom builds now and that like run ROMs and stuff. It's so cool.
I have an Abernic 40XX, which is basically like that. Actually, it's more of a hacked Game Boy because it only has 1 screen, but you press a button to alternate between the 2, and it actually does the DS games as well.
Yeah, I have a friend who has a DS that's like hacked like that you can just like emulate any games you want on it, even games that like weren't originally on the DS that have been ported to the DS like system. It's so cool. And ignore everything I just said. Everything is legal, and we pay full market price for games here at the Magic Mirror Podcast.
I bought mine legally in Bangkok, in the famous Bangkok knockoff mall, which is huge. By the way, it's like 10 stories and each floor is massive, and it's all knockoff brands. But it was all very legal above the board at the time when I bought it.
That's a good question. I like talking about consoles and such.
Okay, here's another question. Oh wait, that last one, I forgot to say who it was from. Derek's Knight. I can't, never mind. Sorry, your usernames are illegible. This next one is from Isaac Firesmith, 4 numbers. Mirror, mirror, I rip up chaos confetti to ask this question. Do you have a personal favorite card in your collection that is damaged? And why? You have a beat up card that you really like?
For a while, I had a heavily damaged, I think it was a Jet Medallion, because I think it was dramatically thrown. I lived in a weird house in high school that had like multiple levels, and my friend Hans was over, and for some reason, he dramatically threw this sleeved Jet Medallion off of the balcony on 1 level, and it flew perfectly into a dog water bowl. It was really good.
I mean, I have like 3 of like my favorite cards on my desk, but none of them are like heavily damaged or anything.
Take a bite right now.
Yeah, true. Oh, sorry, Iona. In my Reanimator deck, it was SCG Con Denver that was like here a year ago or something. TOA Magic had a booth, or it might have been MagicCon Vegas. I forgot which one it was, but I went to TOA Magic because TOA is just like fucking goated, and they have a damage section at TOA. And I was looking for cards for my new Reanimator deck, and they had a beat up Shieldred the Apocalypse and Void Winnower, and together they were like $70. It was so cheap. I think the Shieldred was like 50 and like the Winnower was like 20.
Hell yeah.
I got like a really like steal deal on those, it felt like. And now the Void Winnower is in my two-headed giant cube and Shieldred's in the reanimator deck.
Mine is probably my Candelabra of Tawanos. I got it from Card Kingdom. I had won many modern events and I had like $400 store credit. And I got their crustiest, most beat up Candelabra that they had. And it's awesome. I love that
Still
card.
in your Jace deck to this day?
I took apart Jace. I still have the Candelabra. I don't know if I'm going to get rid of it anytime soon. But I'm playing Ral. Jace is just, I've tried so hard to keep up with power creep, but mono blue is so rough.
Whoa.
It's really bad.
Yeah.
And Ral Monsoon Mage is like so broken.
Look at that Void. I didn't realize there was a textless Void Winnower for the store championships. That's so cool. Fuck.
See, I'm just
There is.
I'm not sold on textless cards particularly.
But look at the Void Winnower.
I'm not a big fan of them without like if it's a one line of text kind of card, maybe. But Void Winnower has a lot of text. It is sick looking though.
They should print Void Loserer, and it's like a 3-mana Eldrazi, but it's still 11/9, but like it affects you. You can't block with even creatures.
That's pretty funny.
All right, I got one more question that I think is we should have as the final one for before the event. So this user asks, Mirror, I embarrassed myself in front of a YouTuber to ask at LDXP, what should we discreetly say to you to let you know we're real fans? Like, should we say mirror, or reference our favorite hot take of yours?
God,
They're asking for a bacon narwhals at midnight.
God, please don't act like a fanboy. I'm begging you. Let's not have a secret code or anything. Just like say hi. Let's not do this like, oh, dude, I got my shoelaces from the president Tumblr shit. Like, let's just say hi, ask for a sticker, just be normal, please.
That makes me want to come up with something.
Yeah, I was gonna say, should we have Yusuf put a secret code phrase on screen?
Oh.
Yeah, no, you should probably just say hi and that you listen to the podcast. I feel like the secret thing for the podcast is a lot of people, sometimes people will just say mirror, and then nothing after it. And then ask a question normally. I feel like if you're saying some elaborate thing afterwards, that you're kind of in on the joke.
Say mirror, and then make uncomfortable eye contact silently for the next 30 seconds.
God, please don't do that. Especially that's really bad.
What if Yusuf hides a code phrase in the video that appears for like one frame randomly somewhere? Now we also won't know what the code phrase is, so it's gonna be not relevant.
Yeah, we're gonna get jump scared. It's just gonna be a bunch of people saying something. It's like, oh god.
Yusuf, please don't make it like I have a bomb or something. Like, for the love of God.
Yeah, Yusuf, definitely do that. In one frame of the podcast somewhere, just put like text on screen of a code phrase.